Many children were left without their mothers when 13 women from Yorkshire and Manchester lost their lives at the hands of serial killer Peter Sutcliffe back in the 1970s and in the 1980s, before he was finally caught. The voices of those victims and their families are heard in a new ITV drama called The Long Shadow, which details the hunt for the killer.
We're going to be speaking to the son of his first victim, Wilma McCann. We're going to speak to Richard in just a moment. First, though, a look at the heartbreaking moment depicted in the first episode last night when Wilma's children were informed of her death.
Mummy's not coming, love. Mummy's had an accident.
Was she hurt?
She was. That's right.
So where is she now?
Well, she's up in heaven. But she says you're not to worry. She's in heaven, and she's waiting for you.
And all these years on, Wilma's son Richard joins us now. Lovely to see you, Richard. Thank you so much for coming in. ITV listened to people like you, the families of the victims, and they haven't used the moniker Yorkshire Ripper. And that, by the way, is the last time I'm going to say it here. Why was that so important to you?
Well, first of all, it's a triggering word. If you think about what that word is trying to describe. So for the family members, it reminds us of the horror of what he did to the women. But also, I think the bigger picture is, I think media, police and such like should not be using these monikers, because it almost creates this picture of them that's not reality. It creates this monster when actually he was just a softly spoken, mild Bradford lorry driver. So when they were presented with him, they were imagining something else. And so I think it's just wrong to be using these monikers, and it also inspires other killers to follow in their footsteps.
You mean it gives them a kind of savage glamour?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's... I just wish that we'd just drop it and use his name. We all know who Peter Sutcliffe is, and, well, we can only but try.
Because the original drama was going to be called that. That was the name of it when they started developing it 3 or 4 years ago.
Now, I didn't know that, incidentally. They came to me and I just asked them, would they not have that in the title? So I didn't know that. So I was grateful that they did.
And then it changed to The Long Shadow. And I think that is such an appropriate name for it. Because we saw you there, you know, as a child in that clip of the drama.
Yeah.
Being told about what had happened to your mum. I mean, pretty insensitively, to be honest, the way that it was handled, being told by the police officer in charge of the investigation. One of the other things, I think, is that the women who were killed, who lost their lives, they were also described, weren't they, over the years, in a particular way. You want your mum, Wilma, to be remembered as a mum, a loving mum. Not all the other descriptions that he used about the victims.
And I think that's why I found it so moving watching it last night. You know, I've seen it before. I saw it 3 months ago.
They gave you an advance copy, did they?
Well, they let me see it online.
But you watched at home last night, did you?
Well, I watched it in the hotel last night.
Yeah.
I was down here with my peer. And I found it really moving. I cried last night. And I didn't cry 3 months ago. I cried because for the first time, I think the public were seeing Mum as a mum, a loving mum, putting us to bed. Yeah, I knew she was always a loving mum, but over the years, she was always described as a prostitute and a black and white picture. So for the first time, I think we redressed the balance, the negativity that was applied to her. Not all the women were described in that way, but many of them were.
It moved you to tears, and of course you saw your sister being represented in the drama, your older sister, who, of course, she took her own life, didn't she?
She did. 2007.
And how strongly related to what? How strongly related to that do you think it was?
Well, we'll never know, because I mean, she had her own problems with alcohol, but you know, arguably it's because of what happened to us and her. She was the elder. She was like the mother figure, and for her to take that on and to try and deal with that throughout life, it was just too much for her.
Did you used to talk about it much as you were growing up?
Me and Sonia did, yes. Because we went looking for Mum, so that was our bond.
Right.
So the others didn't really remember Mum. So yeah, so losing Sonia actually was more painful than losing my mum.
I bet it was.
Because she was my soulmate. We were the ones that went through that together.
Because you were 5 when Mum was murdered.
Yeah.
What happened to you as children in the aftermath? How did you really understand what had happened?
Well, we initially went to a children's home, and then the following year we set up home with my father, who left when I was 4. And what nobody knew, did we, was what that was the start of, and became this massive public thing. So I can't remember exactly when I worked out what had happened, but it was always in the papers, it had been spoken about by neighbours, and I kind of worked it out for myself, and I was ashamed.
Peter Sutcliffe was an utterly depraved human being. And you would be fully entitled to hate his soul. Do you? Did you?
I did. Me and Sonia plotted revenge. You know, she was going to write to him and befriend him and then go visit him and kill him. That was how we thought all those years ago. But I've been on a bit of a journey for the last 48 years, and I let go of the anger and the need for revenge in 2010 when I met Desmond Tutu, who spoke about forgiveness. And I decided to let go of that and forgave him.
You forgave him?
Forgave him.
On what basis?
Desmond Tutu's words were, you can't force a person to forgive another, but when it occurs, it can change a situation. And I thought, I can't change my mum's death. I can't bring her back, but I can change how it impacts on me, and I let it go. I didn't become his friend, incidentally.
No, of course not.
I used to think forgiveness was for the other person. It's not. Forgiveness is for you to let go of the anger and need for revenge.
If we'd still had capital punishment in the early 80s when he was caught and convicted, how would you feel about it now if he'd been hanged?
That's a good question. How I would feel about it now, I would think that would have been the wrong thing to do.
You would think?
Yes.
How interesting.
And he died a couple of years ago in Broadmoor, didn't he? Yeah.
No, it was in Durham.
Oh, in Durham.
Yeah.
He had a terrible time in jail, didn't he? He was stabbed in the eye, he was blinded. He
did have a...
He suffered.
And the moment that you knew that he was dead, how did that then affect you?
I didn't celebrate it because of how I felt, and I'm not sure how I felt. All I know is the next day, things felt different. Oh. I didn't realise how him being alive and being aware that things were going on in prison, etc. I didn't realise it was just part of part of me.
Yeah.
But when I woke up the following morning, it was like something had been released.
How interesting.
Something beautiful.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yes. It's fascinating talking to you. I could talk to you all morning. And you would recommend this drama to people to watch?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful piece, and once again, it redresses the negativity that was applied to many of the women. They've done I think they've done a fantastic job in setting that setting that. What's the word I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Putting it right, you know.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think that getting rid of the nickname, using the long shadow, humanising those women.
Yeah, that's what it's done.
Absolutely. It restores the balance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning. All the very, very best.